Right now, in this exact moment, you are losing. And the worst part is you don't even know it, because the enemy dismantling your life isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't kick down the door. It simply sits quietly behind your own eyes, wearing your own face, and it has been winning for years while you called it just who I am. So here's the question that should unsettle you. What if the version of you sitting here right now, the one who thinks he's simply having an average day, is actually the weakest he will ever allow himself to be again, starting in the next few minutes? Because 2,000 years ago, a small group of men who were enslaved, exiled, and sentenced to death by their own emperors, discovered something that most people alive today will never discover: a set of laws. Laws that separate the ones who rule their own mind from the ones who are ruled by everything and everyone around them. And once you know these laws, you cannot pretend that you don't. Ignorance was your last excuse, and it just ran out. Before you assume this is just another self-help video designed to make you feel good for several minutes and change nothing, understand this. What you're about to hear was never written to comfort you. Nietzsche once observed that the ones who have a why to live can bear almost any how. And the men who built these 10 laws didn't have therapists, didn't have motivational content, or didn't have anyone telling them it was okay to feel however they felt. They had exile, slavery, war, and the constant nearness of death. And out of that, they built a system so precise, it still outperforms almost everything published this year. Entire industries now sell diluted, repackaged versions of these same 10 ideas back to you for a subscription. Before you dismiss that as exaggeration, consider that empires with unlimited resources, unlimited soldiers, and unlimited gold have collapsed, while these 10 laws, written by men with none of that, are still being read, studied, and quoted 2,000 years after the empires that tried to erase their authors turned to dust. That is not a coincidence. That is proof. And it's the exact proof that should make you angry, because it means the transformation you've been searching for in every new app, every new routine, and every new supplement was sitting in a 2,000-year-old text this entire time. So let's open the first door, the one I call the empty room. Here's the threat hiding inside it. You have not had an original thought in longer than you think, because your mind has been rented out to notifications, to strangers' opinions, and to a feed engineered by people who profit from your distraction. And every minute you spend absorbing their noise is a minute you are not spending building your own mind. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in total silence, no phone, no music, no escape, for even 10 minutes, without reaching for something to numb it? If you can't remember, that's not an accident. That's evidence. Evidence that something else has been steering while you sat in the passenger seat, calling it relaxing. Seneca understood the trap. He walked away from Rome itself, the center of power in the ancient world, because he knew that power over the world means nothing next to power over your own mind. And the moment you sit in that silence and don't flinch, you take the steering wheel back. That room isn't empty. It's the throne room. And right now it's sitting vacant because you've been too afraid to walk in and claim it. Claim it, and you begin the war. I want you to consider this before you move on. Every tyrant in history, from Rome's own corrupt emperors to the algorithms running your phone today, has understood the same principle. A distracted mind cannot rule itself, and a mind that cannot rule itself will always be ruled by something else. So the empty room isn't a wellness tip. It's a declaration of independence, and most people will die without ever signing it. So here's the first test. Think back. How many videos like this one have you already watched? 10? 50? How many of them actually changed a single thing about how you live? If you can't answer that honestly, that's not a coincidence either. That's a pattern. And patterns are exactly what the next few minutes are built to break. Which brings us to the second law. The scar that isn't the skin. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people will spend their entire lives avoiding. Your pain has been quietly promoted from something that happened to you to something that defines you, and somewhere along the way you started introducing yourself through it. I'm anxious. I'm broken. I don't trust people because of what he did. And every time you say it, you hand a piece of your throne to the very thing that hurt you. So what if the wound isn't the wall keeping you weak? What if the wall is the story you keep telling about the wound? Epictetus was born a slave. His own master broke his leg for sport. And if anyone had the right to build an identity out of suffering, it was him. And yet he built something else entirely. A discipline of mind so powerful that Roman emperors studied his words centuries after his death, because he refused the invitation to become his wound. That is the elite secret almost nobody tells you. The wound is real, but the identity built on top of it is optional. It is a costume you put on yourself, one you are fully capable of taking off. And the moment you do, you stop negotiating for sympathy and start operating from strength. Here's a name worth remembering. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived a concentration camp and emerged not broken but with a single unshakable law, that even when everything else is stripped away, a person still retains the power to choose their own response to what happens to them. That is not a slogan, that is the exact weapon Epictetus handed down centuries earlier, and it still works, right now, in your circumstances, whatever they are. Here's the confrontation worth sitting with. If your wound vanished completely tomorrow and erased entirely, would you actually know who to be? Or has it quietly become the only identity you've built anything on top of? Because if the honest answer is the second one, that's not weakness. That's simply the moment you found the exact spot the rebuild needs to begin. Law 3, the slow leak. This one is quiet, almost invisible, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. Every excuse you've ever made, I'll start Monday, I'm too tired today, it's not the right time, felt harmless in the moment, small, forgivable. But here's what nobody warns you. Excuses don't cost you today. They cost you the version of yourself that was supposed to exist 5 years from now. So what if the person you're waiting to become is not being delayed but erased? Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men on earth, ruling an empire that stretched across 3 continents, wrote himself a private command at night. Stop waiting to become good and simply be good, right now, with exactly what you have. Because he understood that power respected right now, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is where excuses live safely, forever unchallenged. So kill the excuse the instant it opens its mouth, before it kills the future version of you that was counting on this exact moment to finally show up. Remember what Sun Tzu wrote about warfare. That every battle is won or lost before it's ever fought, in the preparation, in the decisions made long before the enemy shows up. Your excuses are the enemy scouting your weakness in advance, deciding the outcome of a war you haven't even entered yet. So ask yourself something uncomfortable. If a stranger had access to every excuse you've made in the last 12 months, laid out in a single list, would you recognize the person reading it back to you? Or would it read like the confession of someone you don't actually want to become? Because that list exists whether you look at it or not. It's simply being written in real time, one small surrender at a time. And the terrifying part isn't the excuses themselves, it's how reasonable each one sounds in isolation. That is exactly how they survive detection for years. This brings us to Law 4, the promise you keep when no one is watching. Here is the power move almost nobody executes correctly. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is a coronation. Every single time you keep a promise to yourself in total privacy. Wake up when you said you would, train when no one would ever know if you skipped it, finish the hard thing when quitting was completely invisible. You are quietly crowning yourself as someone whose word is law. And every time you break that promise, you are just as quietly stripping that crown away. Here's the part that should hit hard. The world can't make you unreliable. Only you can do that to yourself, one broken promise at a time. So the next time discipline feels like suffering, reframe it. You will not be punishing yourself. You will be building the only kind of authority that can never be taken from you by anyone else. Self-trust, the rarest currency that exists. History remembers this pattern everywhere you look. The Spartan soldiers were not feared because of their weapons. They were feared because their training in private matched their performance in public. There was no gap between who they were when watched and who they were when alone. That gap is where most people's potential quietly leaks out and dies. So ask yourself the question that separates the strong from the merely talented. Who are you when absolutely no one is checking? Because that, and only that, is your actual character. Everything you perform in public is marketing. What you do alone at 5 in the morning when the alarm goes off and no one would ever find out if you didn't, that's the real audit. And most people fail it quietly every single day without ever realizing the exam was even happening. Here's what should genuinely bother you. You already know right now at least one promise to yourself you're currently breaking. You didn't need this video to tell you. You've known for weeks, maybe months. And the fact that you can name it instantly is exactly why it needs to be the first thing you fix. Law 5. The furnace. Here's the thing worth burning into your memory. Iron does not become a blade by staying comfortable. It becomes a blade by being forced through fire and then struck again and again. And if you have spent your entire life avoiding the fire, avoiding the cold shower, the hard conversation, the workout that hurts, or the truth that stings, you have not been protecting yourself. You have been keeping yourself soft, unforged, unfinished. So what if every uncomfortable moment you've been avoiding wasn't the enemy, but the exact forge your weak self has been too afraid to enter? The Stoics deliberately practiced hardship, wore rough clothes, slept without comfort, ate simply, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they refused to let comfort become a requirement for their peace. They made themselves fireproof on purpose. Once discomfort stops controlling you, nothing external can. This is exactly what Nietzsche meant when he wrote about the will to power. Not domination over others, but the internal battle to keep choosing strength over the easy path, every single time the easy path presents itself smiling and asking you to sit down. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. Every time you take the easy path, you're not just missing one opportunity to grow. You are casting a vote for the next version of yourself to expect ease too, training your own future self to fold the instant something requires hard work. So the real question isn't whether the hard thing in front of you today matters. It's what kind of person you're quietly manufacturing every time you avoid it. Law 6. The puppet and the string. This is where the real war lives. Inside your own skull. You have a voice narrating your entire existence, and you've never once demanded its credentials. I always mess this up. Nobody actually likes me. I'm not the kind of person who succeeds. You accepted these as facts when they were never more than opinions. Opinions often planted by other people's carelessness or your own worst moment, replayed on a loop until it sounded like truth. But here is the secret the Stoics knew that almost no one alive today has been taught. Marcus Aurelius wrote it himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Meaning that voice is not your master, it is your employee. And it's time to start firing it when it underperforms. Ask it one question the instant it speaks. Is this true, or is this just familiar? Because fear has learned to disguise itself as fact, and only the ones who interrogate their own thoughts ever escape the puppet show entirely. Shakespeare put it best centuries later through Hamlet, observing that nothing is inherently good or bad. Only thinking makes it so, which means the meaning you've been assigning to your own failures was never fixed. It was always a choice you were making without realizing you had one. Here's the elite move almost nobody teaches. Don't just question the thought, cross-examine it like a hostile witness. When it says you always fail at this, demand evidence. Name the times you didn't. When it says nobody likes you, demand a name. An actual name. Because vague accusations collapse instantly the moment you demand specifics. And that voice in your head has been getting away with vague accusations for years, simply because you never once made it testify. Law 7. The rope with no anchor. Here's the trap most people never even notice they're standing in. You have spent years gripping ropes that were never tied to anything. Other people's opinions of you, outcomes you already gave your full energy toward, or a past that cannot be edited. And every ounce of energy spent gripping those ropes is energy stolen from the one thing that was always actually yours. Your response. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, and it might be the single most dangerous idea to the people who profit from your anxiety. Because once you learn it, you stop performing worry as if it were productivity, and you start directing every drop of your power toward the only lever that has ever moved anything. Your own effort. Hold that rope, and let every other rope fall. This is precisely the discipline that let Marcus Aurelius govern an empire under constant threat of plague, war, and betrayal without ever losing his composure in public. Not because nothing bad ever touched him, but because he had already sorted, ruthlessly, what was his to carry. and what was never his weight to begin with. Try this test right now. Take whatever has been sitting heaviest on your mind this week and ask it one blunt question. Can I act on this directly right now today? If the answer is yes, go and act. If the answer is no, you are not being responsible by continuing to carry it. You are simply choosing exhaustion over freedom and calling it diligence to make the choice feel noble. Notice how quickly this test cuts through excuses because it works on absolutely everything. The argument you keep replaying, the decision someone else made that you can't undo, or the opinion a stranger holds of you that you'll never actually confirm. Run all of it through the same filter and watch how much of what's been exhausting you simply doesn't survive the question. Law 8. The mirror you didn't choose. Here's the confrontation most people actively avoid. The 5 people closest to you are quietly writing your future right now, without your permission, and you have been letting them. The people around you are not neutral. They are setting your ceiling, your standards, and your definition of normal. And if you're constantly around people who complain, settle, and shrink, you will complain, settle, and shrink too, so quietly you'll never catch the moment it happened. Seneca warned his own friends about this exact danger, telling them plainly to avoid those who find fault in everything, because that mindset spreads like infection. And this is not about cruelty, it's about strategy. You would never let a stranger control your bank account, so why are you letting people control your standards? Choose your mirrors deliberately, or accept that someone else already has. Remember what Machiavelli warned rulers about centuries later, that the company you keep is a direct reflection of your judgment, because the wise and the foolish are known by the company they surround themselves with. And if that was true for men commanding armies, it is certainly true for you, commanding nothing more complicated than your own daily choices. So run the audit honestly. List the 5 people you spend the most time around, and next to each name write one word. Up, flat, or down, depending on whether being around them pulls you toward growth, keeps you exactly where you are, or quietly drags you backward. And if that list makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is information, and this particular piece of information has probably been available to you for years, just never written down where you'd have to actually look at it. Law 9. The whisper behind the chariot. Here is the elite knowledge that ancient Rome built entire rituals around. During a Roman general's victory parade, the single highest moment of his entire life, a servant stood behind him in the chariot and whispered one phrase into his ear, over and over. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. Not to frighten him, but to keep him honest and to keep glory from convincing him he was permanent. And you don't have a servant whispering that reminder, so I'll say it instead. You will die. Nobody knows when. And the instant that truth actually lands in your chest instead of your head, everything shifts. The grudge stops mattering. The procrastination stops making sense. The fear of what people think gets quiet, because there is not enough time left to waste being afraid of it. This is the same realization that pushed Achilles, according to legend, to choose a short, glorious life over a long, forgettable one. Not because death didn't terrify him, but because he understood that awareness of it was the only thing capable of making a life urgent instead of wasted. So try this right now. Picture the exact age you assume you'll die at, whatever number comes to mind. Then do the arithmetic nobody wants to do. Count the birthdays left. Count the summers. Count the number of times you'll realistically see the people you love most. And if that number feels smaller than you expected, that discomfort isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And clarity was always the entire point of the whisper. Now comes the final law. The forge you return to. Here is the challenge, because everything you've just heard means absolutely nothing if it stays in your head. There is no single morning where the old you disappears forever. Rebirth does not work like a light switch. It works like a rep, repeated until it becomes armor. You choose it daily. You choose it again when the old habit calls you back by name. You choose it again whenever quitting would be so much easier, and no one would ever know. The Stoics didn't believe in becoming good once. They believed in becoming good again and again, every single day, for the rest of their lives. And that is the real secret hiding underneath everything you just heard. Transformation was never a single event you were waiting to have happen to you. It is a decision available to you right now, and again in an hour, and again tomorrow. Here is what almost nobody tells you about that repetition. It doesn't get easier because the resistance disappears. It gets easier because you stop being surprised by it. The old self doesn't come back quieter each time you defeat it. It comes back exactly as loud, but you get louder back, and that quietly is the entire skill. Not silencing the old voice permanently in one dramatic breakthrough, but simply outlasting it, one morning at a time, for longer than it expected you to. So here is your challenge, not a suggestion. Everything covered in the last minutes is worthless the second this video ends, unless you turn at least one of it into motion. In the next 24 hours, pick a single law from everything you just heard, just one, and prove it with an action instead of a thought. Sit in the empty room with nothing to hide behind. Keep the one promise you were about to quietly break. Name the voice in your head out loud and fire it the next time it lies to you. Do one uncomfortable thing on purpose before the day ends. Because the old you was built by accident, out of noise, borrowed pain, easy excuses, and other people's opinions you never asked to inherit. And the new you does not get built by listening to a podcast or by watching a video, however sharp the words. He gets built in the next 24 hours by the single choice you make the moment this ends. So here is the only question that actually matters. The one every idea in this video was built to force you to answer. Are you going to close this and quietly remain exactly who you've been for years? Or are you finally going to prove, starting right now, today, not tomorrow, that you actually heard every word?